Hi, good evening, everyone. This is a workshop with the Augusta City Council regarding our upcoming budget. This is our fifth session, and tonight we'll be covering many areas, including community services, our proposed five-year capital improvement plan, utilities, retirement and insurance, bonded indebtedness, and the county tax. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Your Honor. Great to see everybody here. We have a packed house of department heads and bureau heads to support this endeavor tonight. We're going to start out with community services, which we all know entails community services admin, public library, recreation, parks and cemetery, Fort Western, Bicentennial Nature Park, health and welfare, and childcare. Remember, is that enterprise fund that we have, but it falls under the purview of community services, so we'll talk about them as well. So I think, Earl, maybe we'll do in that order. We'll start out, I'll give the overall, we'll start out with community services admin and kind of go down the line from there. We'll do the library next, recreation, parks and rec, et cetera. So I'll kind of tee it up as I have been, and we'll go through everything, and the folks will be here to answer the questions that everybody has. So for the folks watching at home, Haley, thank you very much. We'll go to our homepage. We have the budget review icon that we can click on, and then on the left-hand side, we have all of the departments that we're going to be going over, and you can navigate to community services. And for the folks here today, we start on page 151 in the budget book. And again, the overall, with all of those departments, the overall increase for expenditures is $391,705. And again, that's with all of the departments together, and we'll go through them individually, or a increase of 9.21%. So starting out, and then the revenue overall, which public library has a revenue, recreation, parks and cemetery, Bicentennial Nature Park, and health and welfare on page 153, their revenue is up $116,265, or 31.12%. And you'll see when we get to health and welfare, the lion's share of that expenditure and revenue is within that purview, but we'll go through this in more detail. Expenditures for community services administration, that overall line itself is up $21,630. I am on page 155. And that's an overall increase of 7.10%. The increases of note overall for that department are in the cost of living, salaries, regular employees at an increase of $15,005 or 6.59%, and an increase in health benefits of $4,847 or 11.94%. That gets us to that overall increase. Everything else is pretty much flat, with a little bit of increases and decreases. So that's the highlights of community services administration, and Earl's here to answer any specific questions you may have.
Anyone? So far, so good.
Okay. Next, we have public library. We want to invite Sarah up to discuss that. Sarah is our director of the library. Welcome. So with the library expenditures, we're on page 158. Their overall expenditures are up $49,424 or 4.14%. Again, the highlights to this budget is in the wages and health and fringe. Wages are up due to cost of living increase, $49,012 or 5.91%. Health insurance is up a little over $10,000 or 11.38%. And an adjustment in the fringe to the positive for us is a reduction of $20,871 for the fringe line in that needed adjustment. The other thing of note that we'll talk about, our other item, is a repair and maintenance of equipment. You'll see that's reduced 24,616. We've identified that, and Sarah can explain that more, as shouldn't have been reduced to that level. So that should be back up closer to the projection of FY26. So that's going to be an increase instead of a decrease, and I'll let Sarah kind of field that question. But those are the overall highlights of expenditures, revenues, which are on page 160, which are basically license and permit fees, charges for service. Overall are up $2,000 over last year, or 6.45%. So that is the highlights of the library.
Councilors? Councilor Lynn?
Thank you. Sarah, help me, educate me a little bit, Sarah, on the Friends of Lithgow Library. How do they work? Are they a nonprofit? What do they contribute? This is not part of that.
No, it is not. So the Friends of Lithgow Library are a 501c3 organization. They joined together in the early 2000s with the hope of expanding and renovating the library. And so they took charge of a capital campaign around 2014. They raised $3 million for the expansion, renovation, and some of the very fine detailed work inside the library. If you visited our reading room, you'll notice the gold leaf, which is how it was when it opened 130 years ago. They also purchased furnishings, kind of the added-on things to that project. And so since then, their fundraising is fairly small. It's pretty mom and pop. They have book sales, bake sales. They've done an antique appraisal, smaller fundraising for some of our added-on programs at the library, like our Museum and Park Pass program. They sponsor some programs, support teen programming, a variety of the extras that we don't add within this budget.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Councilor Sinkowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Sarah. Nice to see you. Thank you for being here. I wanted to give you start with the opportunity to discuss the repairs and maintenance of equipment line.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm seeing this.
Yeah, so Earl and I, Earl, we discussed this one earlier, and it's reduced to 5,000, but we thought it should be closer to the 30,000 mark.
That's
Correct.
correct.
Yeah, so I think that was maybe an accidental reduction on finance or manager end, but you can explain maybe that line and why it needs to be where it's at.
Yeah, so the repairs and maintenance of equipment, some of these, like the postage line, that's often very confusing because while it does cover postage from our postage machine, it also covers the van delivery service. So under repairs and maintenance of equipment, that is a lot of the software. That is our membership to Minerva. Minerva is an organization that we're a member of. We pay an annual fee. With that fee, we get tech support. We have our circulation software. They are there if we have any kind of troubleshooting needed. They are the structure that makes the rules for the borrowing and lending that we do. And some of the other things in that line include some of the apps that we are using currently to manage our, our calendar, reservation software for our computers, that sort of thing.
It's like our hotspots.
And yes, so we have Wi-Fi hotspots that we lend. Those are under there as far as the data that we pay monthly.
Great, thank you. I am always amazed by how limited this budget is and how much the library does. Children's Services just ran a guess how many items are in the library. And the range of answers was very comical. But the answer, I believe, was about 75,000 items.
That's correct, yes. Those are the physical items we have in our collection, and there's hundreds of thousands of digital items that people can download, borrow, stream.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible the amount of work that goes into taking care of 75,000 physical items that people can borrow at any point in time. So thank you for that work. One of the things I wanted to expand on a little bit is in some of our budgets, the salaries and part-time line are part-time employees, but if I remember right, most of your part-time employees are actually in the regular employee line, and this is more temp work, is that right?
That's correct. The only person that we have under the part-time temporary is our library page. He's the person who does our shelving. He works about 15 hours per week.
Thank you very much.
Counselor Jenkins?
Thanks, Sarah. For a follow-up to that, how much staff do you have now? How many full-time employees, how many part-time?
We have 6 full-time employees and 14 part-time.
Remember last year we talked, you had, how many custodial staff is there?
Our custodial staff is underneath the facilities budget. We have 1 daytime custodian and 2 evening custodians.
And Indians and Chiefs, do you have an assistant librarian as well?
Yeah, so my deputy director is here this evening. This is Lee Wilkinson. Lee is deputy director. He is also our adult services librarian, so oversees adult programming, interlibrary loan, and is there when I can't be there.
Is there any other structure such as that? Is there other supervisors there under? Or-
There are 2 other supervisors. There is our youth services librarian, Carolyn, who supervises a staff of, I believe it's 5. And then Alana MacArthur, who is our tech services systems librarian, who manages 1 person.
Okay, thank you very kindly.
Other councilors, questions? Counselor Lynn?
Sarah, just, you triggered a memory when you talked about the addition, because I remember there was a heavy debate with the council at the time. And some people were concerned about non-residents versus residents using the library. Do you track customers, how many are residents versus non-residents that are using the library now?
Yeah, so it's residents and non-residents. How we mainly track that is by membership. So our membership right now is around 9,500, and I would say probably 900 of those are non-residents, and the rest are residents. In terms of foot traffic, it's really hard to tell because we are a public facility. We have people coming and going all the
Yep.
time. So that piece of it is difficult, but even, I say, sometimes our biggest customers are folks coming out of the courthouse who need help making a photocopy or making a print, so we definitely have a lot of traffic.
Yep, thank you.
Counselor Morse-Polly?
Yes, thank you very much. Can you remind me what your days and hours of operation are?
Yep, so we are open Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., Fridays, 9 to 5 p.m., and then Saturdays, we're open 9 until noon.
And when you said membership, is there a cost to a membership for an Augusta resident? Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, so the cost is $60 a year. So we basically take the overall budget, it's per capita.
Thank you.
Others? Okay. Oh, all right. Further questions, I see.
Thank you. We'll move on to Parks,
Thank you.
Recreation, and Cemeteries. Thank you, sir.
Cemeteries.
We have Rich Warple, who's the Bureau Head of the Parks and Recreation Department that we'll talk about. So this is on page 162, where we start for Parks and Recreation. And I will preface my dialogue with, these are combined this year. In the past budget books, they were separated out, but the way that our software works for the new budget book is Parks, Recreation, and Cemeteries are together. So you'll see like wages at the beginning of page 162 has 2 sections at the top, regular employees, and at the very last entry says regular employees. Those are the cemetery folks. and the top are the recreation folks. So as we go through that, these budgets are all together. But that's probably why it looks a little wonky, is why do we have two regular employees on the same page? Was it a typo or duplicate? But it's two different part-time time groups. So when I go through that,
Is that the only place there's duplication?
it's not duplication.
Well, not duplication, but similar entries?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Normally in the old books that we had with spreadsheets, we would separate that out. Recreation was one and parks was another. But when we take it directly from our Munis system, they're combined, so it kind of prints that out all together. And it's all within the purview of Rich. That's his bureau. So it is more in line of what the bureau is. So Parks, Recreation, and Cemetery. So again, starting on 162 and the expenditures end on 164, this overall budget between this bureau is up $66,460 or 3.65%. And again, the lion's share, the highlights start out with an increase in wages and recreation. That's an increase of a 790, excuse me, $31,000 or $790. Am I getting that right? Do I have my lines lined up right? Excuse me, $31,997 is the overall for the wages and benefits increase in this line from FY26 to FY27, or an increase of 2.58%. And then again with Parks and Cemetery, that is actually reduced. That their budget line for salaries is current budget is $556,213, and that's reduced $12,095 or 2.17% from last year to this year, again with looking at the structures of those and entering the salaries. So that was a reduction we were able to find in that line. However, the salaries for part-timers over on page 163, part-time temp is up $20,000 or 10.53%. And the health and or health benefits are also up $17,066 or 13%. Under contractual, the overall increase of all of the contractual lines like printing, postage, travel, things of that nature are up $23,550 or 6.28%. The largest share of that is under service fees. The lifeguard costs are up $10,000 this year for the pools, or 22.22%. And also under contracted services, which would be the a lot of the trips out of Bucher and things that they do for seniors, that's up $17,400 or 21.72%. Under supplies, that's things like gasoline, lubricants, books, printing, reproduction, that's up, that overall line's up $10,913 or 5.89%, with gasoline being the largest increase because of those trips at $10,356 or 44.7%. Flipping over to page 164, you'll see the rest of that line, the increases and decreases are either flat or at a reduction in cleaning supplies of $500, bringing us to the overall increase, as I stated, of that 3.95% increase. So those are the highlights of the expenditures for Parks and Recreation. The revenues side of that, they make about in FY26, they're going to make about $46,700 in revenues for permit fees, cemeteries, charges for services, rental and leases. This is on page 165. That overall line is down $4,800, and you'll see the big part of that is under rents and leases. And it has Bucher School. It has a reduction of $9,500 or 54.29%. That's because in FY26, that was an anomaly. We had an abundance of rentals that we don't anticipate in FY27. So we're kind of back to where we were at historical times of FY '24 and before. So that's the explanation with that line. So with that being said, that's revenues and expenditures for parks, recreations, and cemeteries. And we have our experts here to answer any questions or if I missed anything.
Yeah, if I just want to make just one correction on the contracted services, it's up to $17,000. That line item for contracted services, that's actually for the porta potties that we rent. That's for the holiday decorations. That's for the tipping fees when we pick up all the rubbish and bring it to Hatch Hill. We still have to pay the tipping fees for that. But most of that's, another item is snow plowing. We get that parking lot is plowed by a contractor, and we actually pay that. So a lot of that really, I mean, it looks like a lot, but there's probably 7 or 8 different line items in that contracted line item. But the biggest portion of that are the porta potties.
So where's the senior trips, Earl? What line is that? I know that's up.
I think there were 2 contracted line items.
Okay,
One
did I mix
was a
them
very
up?
small one.
Okay,
That's where all the senior trips come from.
thank you very much.
Yes.
Hands, questions, comments? Counselor Sinkowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Rich. Hi, Earl. Thank you for being here. I am similarly amazed by what you all are able to do on this budget. Parks and Rec are behind basically every big event in the city of Augusta, and that's really impressive. I had a couple of small questions. Earl already answered them ahead of time, but I thought we'd do it publicly as well. I was noticing that across the board, it seemed like telephone was shifting.
Yeah, it's going down. This year we had a damaged phone and we had to replace, and some service fees have dropped as well, so.
Great. We don't hate seeing reductions, even small ones. We're good
Yeah.
with that. And then I think the other one, the contracted services, was already answered. Travel expense and conferences, I don't remember if I sent that one to Earl, but it looks like you've needed that in the past and we're going down a little bit this year. Is that one of these trying to cut anywhere we can pieces, or?
I don't believe we'll be using it to that extent this year.
Okay.
We have some new programs we're going to work on that cost less to do, so that's more Zoom and stuff like that too, so.
Oh, that's a good use of Zoom. And I think the last question that I had that Earl did answer, or maybe it was you, Rich, I don't know who the email went to, but the landscape material had been up and it looks like we don't need that amount this year.
Correct, yeah, it was just an anomaly, 1-year issue we had, so.
We actually purchased a Kubota last year.
Yeah, I'm sure it got a lot of use this year.
It did, yeah. We groomed Fuller Field, just groomed with that, the turf, and then we also groomed all the snow trails at Bond Brook with that as well, so.
That's really incredible.
Yeah, it is.
That's how the Bond Brook trails got groomed.
Yep, yeah.
That's
a
really
great
cool.
job.
I heard many residents really, really happy about that, the grooming of the Bond Brook trails this year. So thank you for that work.
Appreciate it, thank you. Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Counselor Lilly?
Thank you. Just looking over at the goals and objectives that you have for this upcoming year, looking at for Fuller Field for the regional and state high school events, what is it? Is it we just need to get in touch with the MPA and ask them to work with us with that? And if we are successful, do we get funds from that, or is it just exposure?
So I actually reach out to the MPA and I petition for any and every state championship event that we can get. It just brings so many people into the community. And when we bring this many people in, they're going to be spending money throughout the community. We also don't know, if anyone may be looking to relocate. If, this community has an awful lot to offer. But by bringing those events here, the concession stand at Fuller Field does tremendously well. So that by bringing that many people in, I'll say, for instance, a state, I think we had 2 soccer games. That brings in about $12,000 to $13,000 in concessions, and that helps subsidize that field.
So we just need that. So with something like that, it's more of like we're talking about, because it's not regional, or is it regional at that point that we're trying to work with the MPA on?
It's both.
Okay.
Yep, regional events and state championship events. The cross-country trails, last year was the first year that that Coney High School hosted the state cross-country meet. It's been hosted in Augusta before, but that was typically at UMA. We did a lot of work on those trails, and we were awarded the state cross-country meet. So now they'll have the state cross-country meet 2 years in a row. 1 year they'll go somewhere else, and then 2 years back here. So that's hopefully something we've secured for some long-term events. But we also get the state field hockey, state soccer, some of the 7 versus 7 football games. Any and all that we can get is what we shoot for.
Fantastic. No, that's great. And then the final one was the install more pickleball courts. Are we actually looking to build more courts? Are we looking to try to use the tennis courts and just paint lines? And are they different or?
So up at Calumet, the Calumet Park, we have some pickleball courts now. We have, I think, 3 or 2?
2. Yeah.
2. But we have the opportunity to build 5 pickleball courts up there. That money was in last year's CIP. The money is already, I don't know if it's encumbered or secured, but that was in last year's CIP. That will be going out to bid in the next few weeks to get that project done. The pavement itself is in decent shape, but we need to just get back down to the pavement, rebuild those courts, and if there's room to add another one. We have to redo some fencing at the same time, but that should go from 2 to 5 courts.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Others? Just a quick follow-up question. MPA, do they ever pay a rental at any of their facilities that they use?
They do, yes.
Pay
Yep.
rental here in Augusta?
They pay rental. When they use the Civic Center for their basketball tournament, they pay a rental fee. When they use Fuller Field, they pay a rental fee, yes.
Okay, where is that revenue located?
Revenue, it should be going into the recreation account. It might go into the parks account. I'm not too sure at this point, but I can find out and get an answer for you.
2080 account, 2080 account maybe with
Could be,
the rest
yeah.
of the.
But I can get it, I'll get an answer for you.
I'm just satisfied to know that they do pay.
Yeah, I mean, as a matter of fact, this year, right now, we're renting to a DSA soccer group out of Portland. They're renting it for 5 separate weekends. So we're starting to see more rentals come in. And I may have to work with Ingrid and set up a separate revenue account just for Fuller Field, now that we see more coming in.
Councilors, other questions? Councilor Sinkowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was remiss in not mentioning earlier the amount of praise that I've heard over the past year, particularly for Parks and Rec employees. With the large events over the summer, Rich, I think you had a group of young men who really stepped up and did a lot of work this summer at our big events. And we heard a lot of constituent feedback about how great they were and what a good job they did. So thank you. I hope we get to keep many of them.
Yeah, we returned 10 people this year from last year. So
Great.
I will let them know they appreciate that very much. So thank you.
How is participation levels in our rec programs? Are they up, down, about even?
About even at this point. We're looking to expand our adult program at this point and maybe a little bit more senior. I believe our senior programming is up a little bit more this year because we did pickleball inside, and then we also brought in bridge this year as well. That brought a lot of people in. So we got some new programs coming up here soon, so that should be good.
And with respect, and then I'm just curious on these questions, and with respect to our cemeteries, are any of them completely full now, or?
I don't believe any of them are completely full. I believe Coney Cemetery is very close, but there's still 1 or 2 there, so, yeah.
Others? All right, all set.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Rich. Old Fort Western. We'll invite Linda Novak up. Is the director of the Old Fort Western. And that budget begins on pages 167 and 166. The overall budget for Old Fort Western is up $15,896 or 7.76%. Over last year. And again, the Lion's share of the increases, salaries and wages, you'll see are up 4,619 for cost of living adjustments, 3.41%. Health benefits at 10,541, or 97.13%. Need to be a significant adjustment with that, with a new full-time staff member, and the fringe benefit is up as well, 3,303 or 22.10. So that's the highlights of that budget overall. And Linda's here to answer any questions you have.
Welcome, Linda. Other councilors with questions? Councilor Sinkowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Linda.
Hi.
Thanks for being here. Can you walk me through, I have two questions. One, I know Fort Western's budget, part is us and part is the fund. What we're looking at here, the FY '27 proposed the 200,000 to, wow, 220,000, there we go. That is fully the city's portion?
Yes, and if you notice, most of the increase is because we had a 50-50 split for my, and this year it's going to be 25-75, and that's where most of the increase is.
Great, thank you.
But the fund pays strictly for the people hired to give tours and work at the fort.
Right, so those, are they historical interpreters? Is that
Yes.
their title? That we see during the 4th of July and things like that, and when the fort's open over the summer?
Actually, the 4th of July and the tree lighting, because they're totally free events, are in this part-time temp overtime. It's the only time the
great.
city pays for any of my staff.
Okay,
for
that's
that
good
sort
to
of
know.
stuff.
Thank you. The other question I had was about the fees of Augusta residents. I heard that those, we historically knew that Augusta residents did not pay a fee to get into the fort, and I heard that that is changing.
The city of Augusta doesn't, most residents don't give value to the fort. So it's my lowest visited demographic of the 5,000. A good quarter of it is Maine, and it's all greater Augusta, not Augusta. So I'm trying to bump them up to give some value. So,
To come to the fort?
because you never go, it's free in your own backyard.
Would it, how did that decision come to pass? Is that the board? I forget the title.
It was never written in stone that the city was free. It was just something the fund did, and we could afford it.
Yeah. So was that reimbursed then? The fees for Augusta residents, was it reimbursed or was it just not a line item at all?
It's just not a line
Okay,
item.
because
at all.
sometimes we'll have things that are covered, like the tipping fees for Augusta residents, things like that. Okay. Would you consider a like partial fee or something like that?
We were trying to come up with different scenarios, and we thought half fee.
I think that would be an interesting place to start to see how it plays out over time.
So it's not totally free.
Yeah, yeah, I hear what you're saying. There's, the $5 fee for something that you want to give away for free.
Right.
I hear that. Thank you for answering those questions.
And I would suspect if the will of the council was to talk about that more, we could have some further input into what that is. So we could certainly, if there was a majority that would like to see that free or otherwise, we could further discuss that, correct, Linda?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Judkins?
Help me out somewheres here. I thought the fort itself did sell tickets. I mean, some tours is a charge for some folks going through.
We charge for everybody.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the
Except for,
revenue here.
traditionally,
I'm not
City of
seeing any
Augusta did not
revenues
pay.
here. What am I missing?
Oh, go ahead.
So the revenues go to the trust. The trust paid for the interpreters. So how many interpreters do you have?
Any year, it's between 15 and 20.
Yeah, so their salaries are paid for out of the trust, and the fees that the trust, or that the fort brings in
Goes to the trust.
goes to the
100%.
trust to pay for that, to
So
pay
do
for
we-
the salaries.
Goes to pay for,
But we have no tracking of that at all.
the fund does, and I get an audit every year for the fund, so.
Right, okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Councilor Lind?
So Linda, help me understand, who manages the trust and the fund?
The Board of Directors. We have the Board of Trustees, which is in charge of the city side. And the officers of the trustees are also the officers for the Board of Directors. And the trustees, officers have to be City of Augusta.
Is that a nonprofit or?
The Old Fort Western Fund is a 501c3.
Okay, okay, all right. So I assume anyone could join it. It's not appointed by any particular person.
What, to become a board?
Member of that board, yeah,
Yeah,
of that
just
nonprofit. Okay.
submit your application through the website, the city
Okay.
website.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else?
In fact, I'm one down if anybody wants to join.
I'm afraid we got to
saved
keep
her
them
for
here for a little longer. Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Next, Earl, we have real quick the Bicentennial Nature Park, which is on page 169. There, Rich can come back up for this one. Their overall budget is up $5,429 or 11.67%. And almost the total of that is for salaries of part-time temp. That's up $5,000 even, or 16.67%. Their overall budget is about $51,940. So that's the highlights of Bicentennial Nature Park.
Questions? Councilor Lynn?
You know what I'm going to talk about, Rich, right?
I do.
Yes, so the Lake Smart evaluation. I just want everyone to know that Rich reached out to Maine Lakes. Maine Lakes went out and inspected the park, and there's a little bit of non-point source pollution, and they've got a plan to fix it. I would just offer, don't rake the pass. Don't bother to rake the pass. Yeah, so that will alleviate a little bit of work. But thanks for doing that. That's really a good thing. It's a small pond, and that pond feeds 3 Mile, that feeds Weber, so it's the start of a chain of ponds that are all problematic and impaired. So anything we can do would be great. Thank you
Yeah.
for that effort. Appreciate it.
Yep, definitely.
Councilor Morris Polly?
Yeah, thank you. Can you tell me the breakdown of the staff that are working? Is it one full-time individual? Is it 3 part-time?
It's all part-time, about 5, I believe. Some part-time may only work 20 hours a week, so the number of staff may change. And what was happening was John Dennett runs it. He is a part-time staff, and he was working every weekend last year, Saturday and Sunday. So what we did was we found another person to come in on weekends to help give him a break so he could spend time with his new wife and get out and do some fun stuff. So he dedicates a lot of time to that park, and it wouldn't be nearly as nice as it is without him.
What are the hours of the park?
I don't know off the top of my head.
That's a good question.
That is a good question. 11 to sunset.
Thanks, Bethany.
Yeah. Save me.
7
yeah.
days a week?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Sinkowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi again, Rich. My question that I already sent to Earl was about group use. And so I was wondering if we charge anything extra for group use. Earl said that there's a charge per individual that is supposed to be in the group.
Yeah.
And is that, there are groups and then there are like rentals of the entire park, right? Are those two separate things? Or are they the same? We're talking about the
They're
same.
the same thing. If the group is large enough to exceed our maximum capacity, then we'll close the park at that point. And we end up making more money because during a day, we'll never really bring in that many people at once. So like an event would be more money in the day than we normally would bring in. So we do make more money for bringing in events and closing down the park for those.
Okay, that's good to know.
I'll just add, the incident that happened last year, it was a double booking. The person that books the park and always books the park, a person went to somebody else and they said, sure, I don't see it booked at all. And all of a sudden we had a double booking. So it was unfortunate. And hopefully we put some systems in place so that won't happen again.
And we had talked about that quite a bit last summer, I think, and I remember having a resolution. One of the things that I'm remembering too is that we were talking at the time about ways to get it out to residents when the park was going to be closed for a booking, because that was something that people were finding if they weren't on social media that they were not aware and they'd show up and it was closed. I can't remember where we ended on that. I'm putting you on the spot in the moment, but
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think really the only way we can do it is work with Haley and get something out on social media in all avenues. But Haley's our go-to person when it comes to that.
yeah, that I think if we maybe utilize our website or something, knowing that people are sometimes turning away from social media, that we might need various avenues to get that information out. But it's good to know that usually when we're booking a group, that actually is adding revenue to the park.
And most of full bookings are outside of normal season. So we do most of the big ones out. We try to do it outside of normal season we're opened, so.
That's great. Thank you. I know this is something that is a lot of value to Augusta residents. I hear from many people that they really love being able to go access water so easily in the city, so thank you.
Councilor Gary Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering, what is the max capacity of the park?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I thought it was 100 and some change, if I remember correctly.
That works, yep. And then the other question I had was, are we able to take cards at Bicentennial or just cash?
At this point, I believe it's just cash.
Okay, I'd be curious to know what it would take or to be able to take cards as somebody who literally never has cash, ever. They have very kindly allowed me to come back at a different time to pay them, but yeah, I'd be very interested to know if it would be possible.
Yeah, I can look into that, no problem.
Councilor Lilly.
How many people each summer use the facility?
I know this year we're averaging close to 100 a day during the summertime. I don't know the total off the top of my head right now, but I can get you those numbers, send them to you.
Does that seem to be going up, staying the same, going down?
It actually seems to be going up, doing better. We're also trying to utilize it outside of the normal season as well. With these events, I think that was a good idea from John to bring people in outside of the normal hours. And then we do run some ice fishing education events in the winter now out there as well, so.
And that's what I was looking at again, the goals, looking like partnering with IF&W. If that's the case, would that just be staffed by Parks and Rec out of your budget versus out of this then?
Yeah, that would come out of Parks budget at that point.
Okay.
We have been using that because it's full-time staff at that point.
Sure. Has that been successful in the winter, being able to use that?
It's been incredibly successful. We had an educational day and had to ice fish, and we had people coming all the way out from Yarmouth telling us that we were the only one available on the free ice fishing day that had an education program. So, yeah, that has been a great turnout for that.
Fantastic. Yeah, if we can try to find a way to let more people know about it.
Yeah.
So I enjoy going to the nature park and, yeah, I tell people about it, and some people just don't even know that it's there, and it's too bad because it's quite a space.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Morse-Polly.
Do we charge Augusta residents a different fee than we charge non-Augusta residents?
In summertime, we only allow Augusta residents out there at this point. If we did non-residents, we feel the park would be overwhelmed and not really be a great not really be a great place at that point. So we're pretty well maxed out with Augusta residents at this point. So
What is the fee?
$3, and I think there's like a veterans fee of $2 or something like that. So
So $3 a day, 100 people a day, 7 days a week?
yeah, and you can get season pass. A lot of people do that. So it's your car load for, I believe it's like $7. It's a very low fee as well. So that's like $7, $12 for like a season pass as well.
$7 to $12
I believe. I have to
for
look into
a
that.
carload to have a pass all
A
summer?
family, I believe. But if like kid comes, they do allow, I mean, we're not so stingy that when a family comes with a kid, additional child, we don't allow that child in. So same with people that come to visit. If they're not from Augusta, we always allow them to come in, look at the park, spend some time there, and then let them know that next time they come, it won't be available. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
Is the camp utilized, or is it a maintenance issue at all?
We don't use that for day-to-day operations. at this point. I think we did, yeah, not at this point. I think mostly just staff use it. So, yeah.
But it does get used?
Yeah, it gets used.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Council Lynn?
I'm just going to take this as an opportunity to kind of expand a little bit on that partnership with the Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. I attended a class, Sportsman's Alliance of Maine has a big facility right down the road. I went to a fly tying class, and there was probably 30 people from all over Maine. I left there, and there was an announcement that there's a fly fishing shop opening in Waterville. There's one in Gardner. So I talked to the city manager. I said, we've got this spot that I don't even think we realize how interconnected all these places are. So you're running an ice fishing derby with people from all over Maine. How many people were there at that demonstration?
About 30 people.
30, 40 people?
It's really geared towards younger kids, just learning the basics. We hand auger, we bait hook, and then we, together, a group will do one trap together, and then we go do another trap. So
My point is we're co-located here with Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. All these state agencies are expanding their outreach. We've got outreach all through here. So I just was encouraging the manager to talk to our economic development people, just to say, we're here right in the middle of Maine. We've got 3,000 acres set aside, state property, they got game management area. We've got Togus Pond, we've got Three Corner Pond, we've got all these facilities, and it'd be nice to connect it all.
Yeah.
And see some businesses start opening that, supporting all of that, and bring in some tax dollars. So it's kind of little secrets here and there. But someone like me is touching all these points. I'm driving away thinking, gosh, what an opportunity for us to be an outdoor center right here in Augusta. So thanks for doing that. Keep partnering with Inland Fisheries, Maine Guides, whatever it is,
Yeah.
Maine Lakes. It's great, Rich. Thank you.
yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is health and welfare on page 172. Have Nicole, our director, come up with Earl. And this is the budget I talked about that had kind of some of the biggest increases both in expenditures and revenues. Their overall expenditures are up $232,866 or 34.12%. A small portion of that, comparatively speaking, is in salaries, health and fringe benefits. Salaries are up $11,836 because of cost of living. The largest increase you'll see is in contractual. That's all those lines combined is about $205,947 or 56.67%. And that's for the large increase in housing and rooms that you'll see down towards the bottom of the page. With those increases, obviously the use and looking at the projections from FY26 and what we need to anticipate for FY27. And then you'll see fuel and groceries as well have increased. Fuel at $1,800 or 60%, and food and groceries at about $3,000 or 42%. So that's the overall highlights for expenditures. And on the other side to that, on page 174 in the revenues, you'll see a significant increase of $118,565, excuse me, or about 40% with that, and that's the increase from the reimbursement and general assistance at about $114,565, or about 40%, and then state and other municipal increases at about $4,000. So not enough to completely offset the expenditure increase, but obviously with that split in reimbursement from the state, that's where you see the large swings in expenditures and revenues. Nicole can get into any details that you may have questions on.
Council Lynn?
Thank you. Nicole, can you talk about the housing? What's driven that up?
So last year, 2025, we had 6 sober living recovery programs, and just 2026 alone, we are up to 10 facilities. So that's kind of where the hike has kind of taken place.
Help me understand. I'm not familiar with the funding model of those facilities. Why is the city because those are private organizations, right? Why are we bearing the cost of, to the tune of $145,000? Help me.
So this is a mandate from the state. So they reimburse us at 70% with the understanding if their bed's over 26, then we'll get 100% reimbursement. And out of the 10 facilities, we have one program that we get 100% reimbursement on.
Okay, so all the others are smaller, so we're paying 30%
Yes,
of that.
yes.
Okay. With that 30%, do we have any oversight, or it's just a funding string?
Yes.
Okay, wow, that's too bad.
I'd just like to add, a couple months ago, I think, Courtney, you may be involved with this. We talked with a gentleman from the state DHHS, and we talked about the sober living and recovery homes and some of the difficulties we have in GA, trying to utilize the GA rules and guidelines for sober living and recovery homes. I don't forget where I was going with that, but he recognized.
Reimbursement across the month, is that what you were discussing with him?
Pardon, I'm sorry.
When it was
Oh,
reimbursed?
I'm sorry, the oversight. He was going to reach out to, I think, MAR, and ask them so MAR is the oversight.
Okay.
Is it called MAR?
MAR, yeah.
MAR is the oversight, but he was going to reach out to them. There really isn't a whole lot of oversight right now when it comes to that, but I think we made him aware of that, and I think he was going to work with MAR to start with some more oversight. And
Now, I know from time to time, this is anecdotal, but time to time, the warming center would have people show up that had left sober homes. I just was unaware that we had that many. And I was unaware that we were subsidizing them really with city funds to the tune of $145,000. So it's an education for me. I'm completely unaware of that. So, all right, thank you.
Councilor Morse Polly?
Have we looked at or discussed the ability to use opioid settlement funds to offset that 30% where it is recovery, and that is one of the pillars for the fund use?
No, I haven't explored that at all.
The Moss Center is a great resource for that. I haven't asked that specific question, but I've asked questions like, could we use it to offset EMS costs for payment and things like that, which it doesn't qualify for. But there is the pillars, is that what they're called? That we could look at closely, and we could ask them that specific question, and they'd be able to provide that to us so we can follow up.
Thank you.
Councilor Sinkowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
Thanks for being here. I had sent a couple questions. One, I think, was just what contracted services are we adding this year?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's actually two line items in there for contracted services. Contracted services, we started putting $3,000 a year into that account, and it was because there are certain things that the state does not allow us to reimburse for, and it might be something as simple as fingernail polish or Axe body wash, or just something that the state deems, not a
Basic
a
necessity.
basic necessity. But if that's something that can help somebody get through the day and give them a little bit of confidence, we actually worked it out when Susan was the city manager, that we put $3,000 aside for any incidentals that the state does not reimburse. I think most we've used is maybe $500 in 1 year, but that's what that was set aside for.
Right. And so I didn't even realize the two lines. I'm looking at them now, and we're just moving one to the other, and going forward, maybe that other one will disappear.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Then the other, I had two kind of overarching questions. So I was wondering how to interpret the negative revenues for FY25. I just can't quite wrap my head around what that means.
And what do you mean by the, oh, sorry.
I got it. It was just the way it was reported and came through when it was uploaded. Those are actual numbers, and the negative should not be in front of them. Munis, when they do the report, it prints a negative in front of revenues, and I must not have taken that out before it was uploaded into the budget book. But
So-
those are actual numbers.
So I can assume it's like a little over 250,000 would be the positive revenue for FY25. Is that what I'm understanding you to say?
316.
So the 316,000 was the actual for FY '25. Am I
Okay.
looking at the right one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
316. Yep.
Yes, yes. So that is not negative, that's positive.
Right.
Okay. And so that explains the bar chart on page 173 and then also the overall revenues on 152. Okay, great. So that's just an error. And then the other thing, I didn't do this math out, so I'm kind of going off the cuff, but it didn't look like our expenditures and revenues follow that 70-30 split. Can you explain that?
So there are roughly 10 line items that the state reimburses us for.
There we go, yeah.
We take those 10 line items and add them all up. That came to $574,100. 70% of that is $401,870. We added a little bit more for some of the 100% reimbursement that we are getting.
Okay, great. So when the state talks about reimbursing at 70%, it's specific parts of GA, but not the entirety of what it costs to run GA.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councilor Lilly?
The question that I have is between the housing and rooms. What are the main differences with that?
Housing is apartments or efficiencies, whereas rooms just have a room. It doesn't have a bathroom or a kitchen. So it specifies specifics in our system, our database, to keep track of the difference.
Do we get reimbursed for the rooms like we do with the
Yes.
housing through
Yep.
the state?
Very much the same, yeah.
Okay. So if the numbers, if I'm understanding this right, it's 240,000 for housing and 300,000 for rooms?
Yes, yep.
Okay. And then roughly how much do we get reimbursed through the state for that?
70%.
70%?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did legislation change that at all this year, or was it unsuccessful?
So I do have a conference in 2 weeks. Hopefully I'll get some more information, but the last time I was there, they were talking about increasing it every year for the next 5 years. So we're at 70%, so hopefully next fiscal year we'll be at 80%. That's what we're looking at. So we won't know for sure, so, but that's what we're looking at.
Good, all right. Councilor Morse Polly?
Just a follow-up question. In the recovery homes, when somebody leaves, if they're there for 3 days and the check is issued, do we then recoup the amount of money for what the leftover was?
So that is a good question. Jared and I put our heads together and came up with a great plan, and it's working, by the way. So what we're doing is we're doing 4 separate weekly vouchers for the month. And then every week I connect with all the program managers or whoever the higher ups are to give me a report of folks who have left from what time frame to what time frame. If someone had left in the middle of that, I will void out all those vouchers and just adjust that current voucher that they're on to the times that they've stayed. So it has worked great. It's more time consuming, but it's worth it at the long run, but it's worked pretty good.
Okay, glad to hear that.
yeah.
Thank you.
Councilor Sinkowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize, Nicole. I forgot one of the questions was I had anticipated that housing and rooms would go up with the covering of sober and recovery houses. But I was wondering if we are attributing all or most of that increase to adding those in this year, or if there are other factors that are also contributing to the increase.
Actually, I just kind of did a scenario a little bit. So like for fiscal year 2025, grand total for housing ballpark, I came up with 232,915. And then for sober living and recovery, we dished out about $109.07. And then combined, it was like $341,000. So realistically, like recovery and regular housing are almost neck and neck, if you can kind of see that. But I will say so far, we're only 8 months in right now on this current fiscal year. Thus far, just housing alone, not recovery, sober living, we're ballpark around 191,000. And for recovery sober living, we're at 141,000. Combined total is 333,000. And that's where we're at. We're only 8 months in, so.
So we are seeing some pressure from
Yeah.
housing in general
Yeah.
as well, that people are coming and needing housing
Yes.
support.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Council Gary Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nicole, can you talk a little bit about the difference in how much we pay for a recovery house bed versus a regular room?
Yes, I have that. So for beds under 25, on a weekly rate, which is what we do, is 168.75. If we were to do monthly, it would be 726. For beds 26 or greater, weekly is 118.13. For monthly, it's 508.20. And if you do just regular housing, the maximum for like, let's say a room for the month is 964.
Okay, so it's cheaper to put somebody in a recovery house bed
Yes.
versus a regular apartment?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I was wondering, would you be able to, you don't have to answer this right now, but would you be able to put together a list of all of the recovery houses in the city as well as how many beds they have?
I have
And
it.
oh, look at that. Do you also have how much we paid them last year?
Yes, actually, I do.
Like she was prepared for my question.
She's always prepared.
Okay, could you provide that to me?
You got it.
Okay. And then just as a little bit of background to the council, I was part of working on the piece of legislation that makes it so that the state pays 90% for beds that are above, houses above 26. And as part of that legislation, DHHS's directive from HHS is to work on this issue as well as to provide a report back next legislative session from Mike Freisinger, who is the gentleman that General Assistance met with, looking at what is the sustainability of recovery residences across the state. So we should be looking forward to a document coming out of recommendations from DHHS about what to do about this issue, because we're not the only ones facing this across the state. That being said, it is an issue, and also it remains cheaper to house people in these houses. So it's like we would either be housing them in recovery houses or we would be housing them in apartments. So it's a catch-22.
It is.
Yep.
Council Lilly?
I'm not sure who's this question would go to, but just some clarification. When we say 25, 26, is that beds or what? I'm not sure what that
Yes,
number is.
That is correct.
Okay.
Beds, yep.
Thank you.
Council Morris Polly?
Do you have the number of beds citywide currently?
We have 163 beds grand total
In the city?
in the city of Augusta.
It's expensive.
Council Lilly?
And just coming back to the 25, 26, can someone explain to me the difference in that? Do we get more reimbursed if it's over 20, 25
So
or
if it's 26 beds over, we get 100% reimbursement.
Okay.
So
how many of those do we not?
we have one program.
So only one program's at 100%. Okay.
Anyone else? Council Gary
I'm
Allen?
sorry, I have one more question.
Sure.
So we're looking at 145,000 increase in the line. And if all of them are at 70%, then it would be about 43,000 to the taxpayers, correct?
Yes.
Versus we get reimbursed about 101,000. Am I doing that right?
I did a rough figure myself on that. So like say for fiscal year 25, 30% taxpayer expense would have been around 102,000
Okay.
roughly.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I had those notes right.
Council Morris Polly?
The individuals coming into the sober homes, are they residents of Augusta? How does that work?
Some are, I'm not trying to say none aren't, some are, but a lot of folks are from all over Maine. Lewiston is definitely the big one where folks are coming from. I mean, today we got 2 from Millinocket. Presque Isle, Brunswick, Portland, Scarborough, Lincoln County, Waldo County, Knox County. I mean, we get them all over. From my understanding, because I reach out to a lot of other municipalities, I know Westbrook is pretty neck and neck with Augusta right now, and they're feeling the same across the board, just folks coming from all over. So yeah.
Councilor Lynn?
You may not be able, maybe Councilor Gary Allen can help me, but we proportionate, I mean, do we have more than most municipalities our size?
Last I knew, I think Augusta was larger, and then it goes Westbrook, then Sanford, Portland.
So what's attractive about Augusta that someone would want to
Good question.
open here as opposed to Waterville as an example? I mean,
I'll
I
tell you
ran
my-
in,
I'm sorry.
I ran into a young man from Madawaska, and I was kind of shocked that he was here. He just said it was an opening and I needed to get sober, which is honorable, but I just kind of figured between Madawaska and Augusta, there wasn't a stop. Bangor or Millinocket or Holton. There's a lot of towns between Madawaska and Augusta. It's a long ways, and he was struggling just getting back home. It didn't make any sense to me. I was trying to figure it out. Why here?
And like Enzo, like I know they have a contract with Two Bridges Regional Jail, so a lot of times they get a lot of people from like the Lincoln County area that comes to the Augusta. So I know some places have some type of contracts, even with like rehab centers and whatnot. So I think that's part of it and how folks are coming from all over. Oftentimes it's word of mouth from folks that they know so-and-so's been at this place. They told me it was a great place and I need to come check it out.
Okay.
So and that's
And we can't regulate that, right?
right.
So we can't say we're at 10 or 12 or 15, we're at capacity, so.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Other questions or comments? All right. Thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome. Okay.
All right, thank you, Nicole. We are now flipping back to page 46 with our enterprise fund childcare. We'll have our director come up and help field the tough questions. I'll do the overall. Bethany's our director of childcare. She'll be here with Earl to answer any questions at the end. But starting on page 48, we'll do expenditures first, 48 and 49. Overall, childcare expenditures are up $70,782, or 9.66%. The highlights of that are an increase in salaries of employees for cost of living increases at $20,487, or 8.23%. They do have an increase in part-time staff of $40,000 over last year, which is about 15.9%, or 0.9%. And then health benefits are up as well for that adjustment, $12,023, or 38%. The special and on page 49, special and other miscellaneous services, you'll see is up $6,000 or 11%. That's the busing, is my understanding. That seems to creep up every year, that those costs are going up. And then backing up a bit, I guess the fringe is another one that caught my eye that obviously is up due to the cost of living adjustments at $8,178, or 17.66% for that overall increase. So that is the highlights of the expenditures. And then for our revenues, back on page 47, you'll see the revenues are up $104,040, or 14%. A lot of that is attributed to the federal pass-through at an increase of $27,000, or 35%. State before and after childcare at an increase of $22,140, or 9%. And before and after daycare at $54,500, or 22.20% for that overall increase in revenues. So those are the highlights of the revenues and expenditures. And if I missed anything or anything to add, please feel free.
So my question is, if we've got revenues exceeding expenses for next year, why is there no transfer to the general fund?
That for the existing year, there's no transfer for FY '26. Is that what you're talking about? Or
There's
for-
none proposed for FY '27.
There should be one for FY '27.
It's zero now.
Okay, there'll be, yeah, with a revenue, or operating in the black, we'll have a transfer.
Okay.
Yes, I'll make a note of that. Thank you.
Councilor Sinkowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Bethany. It's nice to see you. I had a couple of questions on the expenditure side. The workforce salary supplement, can you explain that?
So the workforce salary supplement is a mandated, just that salary supplement, that we get from the state. That is some federal funds passed down to the state that anyone that qualifies gets reimbursed on a monthly based on their qualifications and their education, which is in collaboration with the Maine Roads to Quality program. So, and basically that kind of gets dumped into the federal pass-through, and then that gets paid out from there. So it's different for all, 18 or so that I may have in there, because it's based on what they're ranked at. But it's a mandated aspect that is a wonderful benefit to part-time childcare workers. And it's mandated through our licensing to participate in this because we do receive subsidized funds,
So when we have it on the expenditure side, we also have it as part of the federal pass-through revenue side? Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, it should be. I mean, a lot of times the revenue pass-through exceeds what the workforce salary supplement is. Not by a lot, but it typically does exceed it.
Okay. And what I had asked Earl, and Earl gave back to me, was that it's difficult to anticipate what's going to be mandated year to year. Is that right?
Yeah, there's been, again, I feel like I said this way too many years, right? Since the dreaded COVID time, the state and federal levels have thrown lots of different scenarios and funding sources at childcare, trying to figure out what is the most sustainable and to best support. So some years they have had larger amounts, and then sometimes they've capped it. Sometimes they were, paying all the parent co-pays at 100%, and then they would go back and not. So you don't really know when we do these budgets, right? We're sometimes 18 months out. We're kind of at the mercy as to what, both at the federal level and the state level, what they ultimately decide. And then obviously we're mandated to follow whatever the state tells us we need to do, so.
Great, that explains it. Thank you. And then my other question was, are we anticipating, so when I look at the revenue side, the before and after school daycare, it looks like we're anticipating that to go up. Is that a rate change? Is that a number of students? You're usually pretty maxed out, right, with the number of students you have?
Yeah, well, ideally it will be a little bit of both, but yeah, we definitely, I've had to sit down with Earl. We were trying to very slowly climb and we were so low for so many years, and very slowly try to pick away at that. We've kind of had to take a little bit more of a chunk and increase rates. We have the market rate, which is set by the state for anyone that's subsidy, and then we have a private rate. So it is different depending on the funding source, but we were still quite a bit under for the private rate. So we're trying to get that to what is comparable in this area. And we also are looking a little bit at how we have been very strictly based on grade rooms, and we're allotted so many children per grade in a room, and we are now trying some new approaches where we can blend some. So maybe we have some first graders that can handle, and it's better for them to be up with the second grade room. And so that opens up more space here. So trying to be as creative as we can to get in as many kids as we can safely and offer quality care for. So both increase in rate and increase in enrollment is the anticipation.
That's fantastic. And I should, before, I think I have one other thing that I wanted to ask about, but before I forget, I should say that as someone who has kids in this age bracket, I hear from many parents who do send their kids to before and after care, and Bucher is like the gold standard. Everybody I hear that either utilizes it is very happy with it or wishes their kid was in it. So I just really appreciate having quality childcare that's reliable, and there's a lot of crossover between employees that work for Augusta School Department and for Bucher, so the kids really develop strong relationships with their caregivers, and that I can't speak highly enough. So thank you for all the work you and your staff do.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. There was one other line in, it looks like we haven't budgeted for property and casualty for this year. Is that something we don't need anymore, or is that?
No, that was my mistake. I didn't add it. I go
Okay.
through all the extra funds last. I thought I had gotten it, but I've already made a note in there to fix it. And the beauty of the software is the minute I fix it, it's fixed right online and is visible on the website.
That's really great. Thank you, Ingrid.
You're welcome.
Councilor Lilly?
Thank you. Are you at capacity at this point? Talking about, sounds like you're trying to increase people, but are you able to even take more kids on?
Right now, yeah, so capacity, right, that's a ever-moving target a little bit in
Sure.
childcare, because I do have ratios for staff I have to maintain, as well as then capacity as far as my license is far greater than that. But right now, yeah, we've done a little reevaluating and some adjusting. So we are able in certain age ranges to take on a few more. We're not talking huge numbers
Sure.
by any stretch at this point, but my goal is to be able to, fit and serve another 10 to 12 children across the range, which any way that I can get in the most amount of kids and serve the most amount successfully is always the goal. So
So the struggle with the capacity is not so much the space, or your license on that, but more of the individuals and the ratio numbers, and that
Yeah.
would be each grade in each room.
right. So each classroom it goes by a square footage of how many children you're allowed to have in a certain classroom. And then I have to have certain amount of staff to maintain that. But then, of course, you throw in the aspects of quality care, which maybe it's not the best idea to have 21 5-year-olds in this room together. Like maybe that is not great. So then we try to say, maybe this room is really 18, but can we get, the 21 in this room, so forth. So our overall licensing capacity, because they also count like the gym and things like that, is certainly much higher, but I wouldn't have the staff or I'm going to make sure that the kids have a classroom and a actual programmable space to use them before I bring them on. We, on average right now, are about 125. I would like to see that again. I would be more comfortable at 135 to 140 is my ultimate goal. And I think we can very easily get there.
Sure. Talking about capacity still, is the center more than able to continue to serve your needs?
Yeah, absolutely. We are so spoiled, just to put it, lightly. We're very spoiled at Bucher. Most after-school facilities, as our program did for 23 years. Normally you're based out of a cafeteria and maybe a gym, and you make the best of it. And when there's a school concert, you've got to shuffle and just find an extra space. And we never knew we would be in any given summer, things like that. And we have a home at Bucher, and we have wonderful classrooms that the council very graciously supported, getting heat pumps with AC. We're able to be open. We don't have to close when it's too hot. Certainly don't ever have to worry about being too cold. We have 2 beautiful playgrounds, a ball field. We have an 8 raised vegetable bed garden out there that our kids grow, and just so much support at Bucher. So we're very fortunate. And, I think there's been talk down the line if we ever needed to expand. I think, there's potential options there, but, you know, my goal is just to offer the best possible program within the space that I have, so.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Councilor Lind.
Bethany, two easy questions. Do you have any city employees utilizing childcare?
Yes, we do. We have a few, and in the summer, we almost always get a few more. Public Works tends to be one. You know, and we're fortunate we opened pretty early, which is nice, where especially we have, you know, Public Works or parks or things like that. So we're open and they can get the kids there and still get over and get out on the streets by, you know, 7 a.m., 7:30 and start cranking out the day. So
That's great. How long have you worked for the city?
well, so I took my first job at 15 with the city, which was, you know, fair bit ago. You know, but I've been with childcare since I was 18. So I've
And the math would be?
I've been here, you know, in the low 20s. I don't, you know,
Come on,
I don't want to show any of my gray hair at this point, but
We're talking decades of service.
Come on, Councilor. Let's-
Point of order. Decades.
yes.
Thank you for, just a point I want to make. Thank you for, you know, it's obvious that you could run this place with your eyes closed. I'm sure Jared doesn't have to worry about how you're doing it. So you talk from the heart and it's enjoyable to watch that. I value service like that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. I do now, yes, officially have children of children that I had once had.
That's
so
when you know
that
it's full circle.
makes you feel a little old, but that's also great that they're like, oh, it's Ms. Beth. Okay, so.
But thank you, seriously. Yeah, that's awesome.
Hands on the side. Councilor Morris Polly.
Yeah. Good to see you. Are these services, this childcare for Augusta residents only, or is this anybody in the Greater Augusta area?
So during the school year, we serve Augusta basically only, with the exception of the 3 vacation weeks. We may have 3 or 4 non-residents at that point. With the exception is, there's maybe 4 that might be on a superintendent's agreement, but during the school year, we're serving kids that are enrolled in our Augusta public schools. So they're getting on the bus from the Augusta schools and coming to the Bucher Center. In the summer, we do open up to non-residents. There is an additional non-resident fee for those weeks. And we do certainly, we see people, you know, they work for the state or they work for Maine General. So it's much easier to bring the kids with them into Augusta than try to find someone like in Jefferson, for example, or things like that. So, but there is an increased fee for non-residents. And I would like to say, majority of our kids we have year-round. I would say 90% of our kids we have year-round, and they are Augusta residents. So they do get, those families do get first dibs. I would never tell one of my families, you know, oh, we don't have room for you, you know, this summer vacation because somebody else snagged your spot. We do try to do a staggered enrollment approach for summer camp.
Perfect. And do we have a certain percentage of those that are on subsidies and those that are kind of the private rate?
Yeah, so we're about 49% subsidized. I feel like that is always this moving, right? About 49%. And when I say subsidized rate, there are numerous rates within that, as anyone who works with state or federal funds often knows. So we have CCAP, which is the Child Care Affordability Program. So if they're working or enrolled in school, we have Hope and Aspire, which is more specifically like if they're in training or schooling. And then we do have DHS Foster, and we also do accept, we don't currently have anyone, but military has their own subsidy form for anyone that's in active military, and we have served that as well. So within that, what then they qualify, and those funding sources are all slightly different, but it is about 49%. It's all kind of given, it's a moving target, so to speak. I know DHS just increased the eligibility guidelines, which is a wonderful news for families. They've increased the income, so we will have more families that maybe before didn't qualify that now will be. So that might shift the other way. We might be closer to 51% subsidized and 49 private. So we have her right around there.
So we don't set a percentage. It really is just who comes in and needs the service, needs childcare. Okay. And we don't have a wait list?
Certain ages or certain classrooms at times might have a couple of kids, like if my first grade room is full. We're trying right now this shift and trying to find open space to try. We tend to get, right, a lot kindergarten through like third and fourth grade. By the time they're fifth grade and up, they're more involved in sports or can start taking the bus home. But those younger grades, we're pretty near capacity most of the time. Every once in a while, there'll be 2 spots in this room and 1 spot in this room, things like that. But that's where we used to have, like grade 1, grade 2, and now we've painted our doors down our hallway. We now have colors. It's very exciting for the children. But so we're trying to blend that a little bit more so that we can shuffle the kids that it is appropriate for to make more space to avoid a wait list.
I often hear individuals looking for daycare and they can't find daycare. So we don't have a wait list. We have the ability to take some individuals just based on the age range. And do we market or advertise that on any social platform that we have availability in a certain age range?
We don't really do it by age range. We do a push, like I just completed the flyer for kindergarten registration, for example. So, because that's a new one, I know we get phone calls from kids. I'm registering my kid for kindergarten. I have no idea what to do with them because it's all new, they're entering school. So I do a specific flyer like for our kindergarten families because it is new and different when you move to school age. But we try to send out through the schools is our primary, along with, our Facebook and our MyRec platform are our most common uses.
And the last question is, and maybe I didn't look thoroughly enough, but is there a budget line here for the support of the facility that comes out of this budget?
No, facilities and maintenance, wouldn't it? No, that's within our facilities and maintenance
Right.
budget.
Okay. So you're really running a pretty tight budget in regards to expenditures versus what's coming in, and then none of that is accounting for the facility that's running the childcare. Correct? Okay. Thank you.
Counselor Sinkowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bethany, I just forgot, I highlighted earlier that Parks and Rec is involved in basically every large community event, but I cannot let you go without also acknowledging childcare's work. I know that you do a lot of work to make those big events happen, like the 4th of July, the tree lighting, and it benefits the families that utilize your services, but also families across the city of Augusta. So thank you very much for all of that work you do.
Absolutely. I'm very fortunate to work in community services. We have a great team and they do phenomenal things. So I'm just lucky to be part of it.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you,
very
Bethany.
much. Thank you.
Thank you, Bethany. Okay, 2 more items. We have the all other category, which are our utilities, insurance for retiree and benefits, serial bonds, and county tax. That is starts on page 207. Then we'll do the CIP after that. So on page 207, you have our utility cost. This is all expenditure lines. You'll see, these are old numbers, and we have been able to find some savings in our water and sewer. If you'll see to the far right, in the water and sewer line, I have that at 7%. They've actually voted to only make that a 5% increase, so we're already adjusting those numbers down to reflect less of an increase that the Greater Augusta Utilities District will be charging for water and sewer. So that's reduced a bit, but the overall budget of that was up 5.26% or $163,045. But again, that reduction will be reflected when we update everything for you at the end of this week. So that's utilities. Do we want to stop there before we go to?
We will stop there. Is there questions or comments? We can move on.
Excellent. Insurance and retiree benefits was another one that had, in my opinion, a significant increase. You'll see the overall is increase of $301,561 or 12.59%. And the largest jump with that you'll see is in health benefits for retirees is up a increase over last year of 230,900. That's on page 208, or 26.57%. So that's an adjustment we had to make to increase to cover the cost for retiree health.
And how many of those retirees do we still have?
Not as many as before, but I don't have the total number. Do you, Ingrid? We could get that for you. We just had one. I think there might be one other one. We just had one individual retire who still had retiree health, but the lion's share of folks left don't. I didn't when I retired, and so it's still people who are kind of that 30-year plus mark, and there's not many left, but there are people who are retired
Right.
that we can get you that number as well.
Yeah, it's a moving target, but Christie has all those numbers.
Total number, yep.
Yeah, kind of curious what the cost per employee is or something.
Yeah, we could find that out, Ingrid, if you could make a note of that.
Yeah.
Council Sinkowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Manager, am I forgetting there's debt in this portion? Can you remind me what that is, the IUUAL?
Yeah, you factor that number in, right? Ingrid, do you want to?
I do.
Yeah, you want to talk about that?
Yes, let me type this in because I always forget what that stands for.
Double book you.
Oops. Okay. Well, why is it not coming up for me? It has to do now, so what that is, it was a payback. So it was something before my time in this, from the main PERS, where each municipality had to pay like a back retirement amount that all of them had to get, because it was so large, do a debt service for it. I don't know the particulars of why that happened. It was, I want to say 15 or 20 years ago that it happened. We're almost at the end of it. 2029, I think, is our last payment, which is amazing. But it is charged out government, Augusta-wide.
Yeah, thank you. I just,
That
I've
was
asked
a Ralph St. Pierre thing where we spread out that obligation. Years.
Yeah, Lewiston did that as well.
that probably made a lot of sense. One thing that occurred to me just after we stopped talking about utilities, are municipalities going to receive any benefit from the recent finding that utility companies were overcharging for like a decade? Or is that only individual ratepayers? Has anybody heard anything about that?
I have not. I can make a note of it and follow up, but.
Yeah, the
I hadn't
KJ
heard.
reported on it, that it will likely be reduced rates going forward, that the rates will be reduced, but they should be additionally reduced because they overcharged.
There's a news article on that, right?
Yeah.
I read that.
So
I can
was-
check on that.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could anticipate seeing that as well as a municipality, or if that would be different.
What's that?
Yes, thank you.
Others?
All right.
So I thought I interrupted you.
Please.
To ask you the question about the number of employees. Did you have more to go?
No, that was it. You
Okay.
perfect timing. So the interruption doesn't count, Your Honor.
Okay. So you got a slight typo there in your message.
Oh, thank you. Cereal bonds.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They're like boxes of cereal.
Anything else on this category? Where to next, Mr. Manager?
How about cereal bonds?
Real bonds.
So serial bonds is our borrowing that reflects the FY '26 borrowing, not the CIP we're going to talk about after this, but the one that was approved already in FY '26. And you'll see those, that's up $258,924 from our borrowing from last year. Principal and interest payments, debt service for principal is $120,000 at 3.15. Debt service for interest is $138,000 or 9.24. So that reflects that increase from the borrowing.
No questions there.
And last but not least is the county tax, which was the original increase of $348,856. That's been reduced about $32,000 and change. So that will be reflected as well in our overall tax rate sheet coming up. So overall, those expenditures altogether that we've discussed are up $1,072,386 or 7.53%. We do have a TIF on page 209 under revenue. We do a TIF transfer that pays for some utilities at the tune of this year. It's up $2,500 or $750,700 that pays towards our utility fees downtown.
Any questions or comments at this point? All right, Councilor Sinkowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Manager, I don't think I fully understand the revenues by bureau on 208, where it seems like they fall off for FY '26.
As far as the payments for bonds, is that what you're talking about?
I think so. These are revenues, correct? So are these, I was wondering if this is like the Coney bond, if that's under ours, if there was a reimbursement or what we're looking at there.
Yeah, that's under serial bonds. It keeps track, right, Ingrid? I think you entered that narrative. It keeps track of what falls off and what has increased, and it divvies that out towards the bureaus that we've made the purchases on and that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. So when we do the next CIP, you'll see each bureau has different borrowing for different items and things like that. And this basically keeps track of representing the increases and decreases of that.
Okay. So when I'm thinking about this as revenue, is that the bond coming in, the loan?
Correct.
So are you asking about like the zero in FY '26 budgeted? Just so I'm clear of what exactly you're asking. Are you looking at the graph?
You talking about the graph?
Yeah, so on page 208, the revenues by bureau, there in 2024 and 2025, there were about $2 million of revenues listed for utilities and serial bonds and notes altogether. And then we're not anticipating those in '26.
No. So what happened there is I ended up starting to, so this amount that we transferred from TIFs to pay for these items was always put in the finance department in a lump. So starting in 2024, I started to try to break them out into the specific departments that they were actually paying for, so there was better transparency. I didn't budget that like that for FY '26, but I still broke it out for actuals. So I made sure that I put it in for the proposed budget for this year, broken out like it should be. So I didn't do the budget piece, but it is in each department that they pay for.
That makes sense. So these are TIF revenues that we're paying for utilities or serial bonds and notes.
Right.
And instead, they are going into the actual departments.
Right, well, so we have TIFs that the specific items, they are paying for the bonds, and the one paying for water. We also have the ones that will pay specifically for the Economic Development Department. So I make sure I split all of those because having them in a lump makes it really hard to see it making a difference.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And I appreciate having the TIFs more easily accessible for people to understand where that revenue's going. Thank you.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yeah, I apologize. And I think I mentioned that in some of the other bureaus that we went over. This budget book now allows us to reflect where the TIFs are actually going, rather than just being in the finance part in one lump sum.
Yeah,
Thank you. Sorry about that.
All right. So we're done with everything else except CIP?
Everything else except CIP?
Does anybody want a 5-minute break or want to carry on? Nobody's getting up, so let's carry on.
Okay, all right. The CIP starts on page 210 with a memo from our assistant manager, kind of explaining the overall of the 2027 borrowing, or not borrowing, but overall CIP that includes borrowing and TIF transfers, along with operating budgets, costs, and things like that. And I'll save till the end. We'll just go over FY '27 first, and then I'll kind of give you a snapshot of the next 5 years beyond what we're looking at as well. But this is more to focus on the FY '27 upcoming projects that we have. As you'll see, kind of flipping to page 212, I'll kind of go through the projects that we have in the queue that involves borrowing from the Civic Center to Community Services, Fire Department, Public Works, et cetera. So kind of going down on page 212, the first part is the Civic Center, and I mentioned that, or Bill Post mentions that in the memo before, where the Civic Center is an enterprise fund that does generate some revenue from advertising and private partnerships. Some of those bonds in the past have been taxable bonds, so we've broken those out into the $1.85 million that could possibly qualify to be taxable bonds, so the rate would be a little bit different. We did that last time as well, and we do that because we want to be on the safe side that if the Civic Center ever becomes more private than public, we would have to go back and pay all of the interest if we maintained a tax-free bond. So not knowing the future and what might happen, we've erred on that side of caution, if you will. But the Civic Center, the two items obviously is the mechanical study for the switchgear we've talked about, the electrical. That's the first step in looking at designing and replacing the electrical. So that's where your $850,000 is coming from. And also, you'll see some bleachers. That's a portion of the bleachers that is incorporated in that $1 million expense, if you will. And those are the pull-out bleachers that we have, retractable. They call them telescope-type bleachers that have gone beyond. We actually did have, today, we were discussing, they do have some issues. They are aged, so the reviewing we have engineers look at those as well and make sure. So that's something that's probably going to have to be moved up because they do have some issues, and we may have to look at some alternatives in the meantime for bleacher seating at that lower level. So we're working through that, and that's something that just came to light within the last today when we were looking at that. But more to come, but obviously pushing the bleachers up at a higher need, if you will, to use those retractable bleachers. And I'll keep you posted more on that as things evolve. So those are the two items with the Civic Center. And then Community Services has a pool redesign. Our goal is to do a pool a year because those are at their end of shelf life, if you will, and that would be something borrowed through a referendum bond. Development Services has an ordinance rewrite that can be paid for out of TIF funding and operating budget. And then the Quimby lot restructure and infrastructure, which we know that's the parcel where the fire station is located. I guess it's an extension of Anthony Ave as well, if you're getting technical, right, Tyler? So, and we're looking to obviously extend that to make that more marketable for any businesses that want to go in at that location as well. So that's something we're looking at a council bond borrowing for at the price of $600,000. And then facilities, you'll see Hartford Station needs a new, the old section needs a new roof replacement. So that's a referendum bond at $250,000. And then the city center renovations for conference room A, we have old CIP money already in the queue for that. So that's already in the works, along with council chamber carpet and tile replacement that we have funding for already. Obviously, just keeping track of those those projects that haven't been completed yet. The Public Works facility, the 8-bay garage replacement is imminent and needs to be done sooner rather than later. That's the larger borrowing at $1.2 million because that structure is at the end of its life, and anything that we store in there as far as trucks and things like that, that will need to be replaced. So that's in the queue for this year as well. Fire department rescue, your typical budgeting, 45,000 out of TIF funding, 60,000 out of operating budget to save, or excuse me, 45 out of TIF funding and 275,000 out of borrowing for the new rescue replacement that's coming up. And then the command vehicle we can strike out. We've already looked at a rental for that through our leasing company that we use with Public Works. And the name's escaping me, but the company that we go through.
Enterprise?
Thank you, Enterprise. So that's not going to be a CIP item. We'll look at a lease on that item, if you will. And then the Public Works, there's your list of roads that either need reclamation or are larger, they're longer roads that need larger borrowing. Mount Vernon Road, Spring Road, Churchill Road rehabilitation, Worcester Street, street paving program is the $1 million that we have in our operating budget that you already see. That's just accounted for in the CIP, and then sidewalk replacements as well. So that's out of the general fund. That's the totals, if you will, looking at, again, not all the borrowing, but, that's a total project cost of $4,845,000 that will be funded through existing CIP, operating budget, TIF funding, council bond, and referendum bond. And then we have on the next page are our enterprise accounts or inter-service funds, central garage. They purchase these items out of their operating budget or enterprise fund balance. And that's your list of equipment that we have on the earlier page that we discussed in the appendix portion of the book at the beginning. That accounts for those items. And that's again, that rental lease over between 2027 and 2031. And then Hatch Hill, you'll see a list of things that Hatch Hill needs that will be paid for out of their operating budget. Final design on a FLIR, compactor needs to be rebuilt, scale house replacement, bulky waste separation, all of those items, mobile fence, compost site modifications. So overall, that all adds up again to, with the enterprise accounts, $13,217,000 for FY '27. again, being paid for out of their accounts and not the general fund. So the two items that we would borrow for with a referendum bond and council bond are the two total prices. Remember, a council bond, $750,000, that doesn't go to the voters. That's something the council can allot. I've indicated the two projects that will cover, which is $150,000 for the Worcester Street project and $600,000 for the Quimby lot will come out of the council bond if you authorize that. And then the referendum bond is the list of the other items I just went through at $7,370,000 for that. So when you combine that, if you go back to page 211, there's a typo there as well. I have between council bond and referendum bond, it should be $8,120,000 in total borrowing for the next fiscal year for the two. So, and there's a spreadsheet on the page before that breaks everything down, if you will, from surplus bond to reallocated surplus, TIF, and that type of thing. So those are the projects that we find are the most pressing for borrowing. The debt service on those projects itself are in the neighborhood of about $300,040 in debt service that will be for that borrowing, those payments on principal and interest combined. So that's the overall 2027 CIP. If we maybe want to stop there, Your Honor,
Yeah.
and then I can.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions.
Sure.
I'm sure council does too.
Please.
Council Lilly.
Thank you. Question, how do we decide the difference between what gets put on for the council bond and what gets put on for the referendum bonds?
So I look at it a couple ways. The council bond is much easier to change. So if we have a project and the council wants to change that, or we don't want to do that, we would just have to go back to the council, and they could decide in and of itself to change that. If it's a referendum bond, it goes to the voters, so it's got to really kind of be specific to that type of project. So, for example, if we wanted to take $600,000 in the Quimby lot in a council bond and buy a new fire truck, we could. You just would change that with a council order. But with a referendum bond, you couldn't buy a fire truck with money allotted for the Quimby lot. So a lot of that is dollar amounts as well that I keep at, but flexibility. So those are kind of the thought process that goes into that.
Thank you.
Council Jenkins.
If you would, please, what's the status of the sidewalk from Eastern Avenue down Coney Road to the Piggery, where we lost those good souls here a few years back? And we've been doing engineering, and that's been promised for the last 3-4 years running.
Yes, you'll see an excavator out there, and Tyler's here to talk, and can talk about it, but I believe that's going to be completed this year, correct, Tyler? Yeah, so I just drove by the other day, and there's an excavator, everything's staked out, the engineering's done. We have all of the permits, and I believe they're going to start right off the work because there's an excavator there. Or we can hear from Tyler, too. No, come up, please.
I'll invite myself. I'm sorry. Yeah, so as of today, so C.H. Stevenson has that contract for the Coney Road, and they're also working on Brook St. Catherine. So I found out this afternoon that they're looking to actually start on Brook St. Catherine the end of this week with a temporary water main, and then they're going to bounce back between the two projects.
Okay.
So,
Obviously, tight neighborhood out there, and given the tragedy that happened, it's a question that gets asked quite often.
Yep.
When's this going to happen? When's this going to happen? So it's
Yep.
nice to finally have an answer
yeah.
and a date.
I have a couple of residents to reach out to now
Yep.
that
Yeah,
I
I'm
have
not
that
surprised.
information. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So I wanted to ask, with respect to the 8-bay garage replacement, 1.2 million strikes me as not a lot of money. Is it just because it's just more of a shell building? Is that what it is, or?
It is, yeah. If you've ever been up there, it's storage. It is heated, which probably adds to the cost as well. But it's the size. It's a square heated garage for them to put the rubbish trucks in and plow trucks and things like that.
Yeah. And my other question had to do with Mount Vernon Road. Is Mount Vernon Road the same as Mount Vernon Avenue, or is that different?
It is different. So Mount Vernon Road, if you head out like the Layton Road and you go towards like the Veterans Cemetery that's out there,
Yep.
that's the Mount Vernon Road.
The fork of the road?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then Mount Vernon Ave is obviously in town. So.
Well, I didn't think Mount Vernon Avenue needed it.
Right. No, it was just.
So I'm glad to know it's a different
Yes.
road.
I will say, you'll see, we did a lot of in-town paving in FY '25 and '26, and you'll see a lot of more of the rural roads being done this paving season. So there's a mixture of the two getting done.
I guess my last question is the $7.3 million for the referendum bond. Have we ever bonded that much money before?
We have in the far past. We usually keep it right around 5 or 6 million. And again, this is what I'm suggesting to try to keep pace with the items, and you'll see as I go over the next 5 years, kind of where we're at to try to keep pace with all the projects that need to get done.
And so dealing with this, the next year's CIP, I presume that we're doing a separate vote on that at a different time, or is it going to be folded into approval of the budget in one?
Oh, yeah, it would be a different council order, but it would be the timing would be the same. We usually wait and do it midsummer. We have that discussion. So if approved, we would it wouldn't be part of the appropriations resolve. It would be a separate council order.
Right. Okay. Other questions or comments? All right, let's go to the out years.
All right, so beyond that, I guess at 214 is the end of the page, and if you kind of flip your book a little bit, it'll give you the spreadsheets for the FY '27 to the FY '31 plan, if you will. And if you look, the Civic Center with all of their list of items is an overall of in need of about $17,588,000. Obviously, we've done a lot of work already that's been in previous CIPs, but that's what we're looking at left. So spread out over the next 5 years, that kind of gives you a snapshot. Community services, we talked about Calumet Pool, they need McCall's Pool, Williams Park Swimming Pool, the Capitol Park Outdoor Fitness, and the Williams Park basketball are upcoming. So there's their list combined with development services, the Hartford station we talked about, and then some Bucher Center repairs. Their electrical distribution system is aged as well and will eventually need to be replaced. So when you add community services, development service, and facilities up, they're another $6,165,000 that will need to be spread out again over the next 5 years. And then the city center has a list of projects on the next page that includes, and again, not all borrowing, right? I'm giving you a total dollar figure of just the items itself. Obviously, it breaks it down into what would need to be borrowed, but what we could use operating budget for TIF funding and things like that. But I just want to kind of give you the magnitude of what we're looking at for costs, if you will, moving forward. So City Center has about 1.7 million worth of fixes and replacements that it needs in the next 5 years. And the Lithgow Library combined with Public Works. Lithgow Library, just a front entrance. They've got some small items. That's a newer facility, if you will. Remove some lighting and controls. So they're just over 200,000. But the Public Works facility is the big one that we need to keep our eye on. that you'll see is the larger item as we work through that at $27,362,037. And their total projects coming up are over $33 million. And then the fire department with their equipment, rescue vehicle, engine refurbishment, they're looking at about $4,966,000 over the next 5 years. I will say, and the chiefs will be in on Thursday, and we can discuss that further, but we've got, we're looking at a situation that might alter the CIP a bit with the fire trucks. We have a ladder truck, an older one, that we were going to refurbish, and we have money set aside to do that, about $500,000, that are finding is probably not money that's best served for that. And with the plan, and you see in the future CIB to purchase what's called the Quint, it's a higher level ladder truck that can reach further and do more, has more capabilities, and can take the place of a ladder truck. I have the chief looking at that to possibly divert funds to get rid of the ladder truck and have the Quint replace that. And we're also looking at a lease program that they have that will reduce our upfront costs, if you will, as well. So there'll be more to come on that, but you'll see the Quint at the tune of $1.2 million is on there. Which would be purchased through bonding, TIF funding, and reserves. We could still do that with a lease program because we own it at the end. So there's some alternative ways to purchase fire equipment now that we're looking at as well to try to not have that big upfront hit, if you will. And the interest rates are pretty close with that, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Sinkowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Manager, with that kind of program, would that also alleviate some of the lead times? Would they be more quickly available?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's exactly, the two companies he's already reached out to, they actually have one in stock that we could look at, so yes.
That would be great, because we've waited years sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. So more to come on that, but I wanted to take this opportunity to kind of discuss the possible diversion of some funds with that. And then you see their overall air pack replacements, fire gear replacements, and things like that. So again, I told you their overall cost. And then, you know, our ultimate goal, which we've all been talking about, public works, roads, there's your list that goes on to the third page, and they're at the tune of $36,285,000 to get our roads to where they need to be. Again, kind of looking at that 5-year and beyond process, if you will. And then central garage, that's just our enterprise rental programs to keep track of those costs over the next 5 years at $4,585,000. And then Hatch Hill. And again, Hatch Hill, we know we're working on alternatives with that. So that's kind of placeholders for things, but that can be interchangeable as well as we move forward with the future of Hatch Hill too. So that's at $23,315,000. So again, you know, going through that and not listing every project, they're all there. They're all on our website, and that kind of gives you an idea of what we have, which is not abnormal for a city our size and the infrastructure that we have. So again, that's the future, and we would be looking for the 2027 CIP to be approved at some point.
So what I don't see under the fire department is the new station. Is that because it's out farther than FY 2031?
Yeah, I have really been focused on the public works facility first. I can tell you if we were to get a pot of money, you know, through federal spending or, you know, congressionally directed spending, and which usually is something that they like to fund, you know, we could reevaluate. CIP is something we can always shift and move, and it's kind of placeholders for things. But I purposely haven't put that on there because it really, with the number of projects we have and the cost, I think once we get past, it's kind of like the Public Works facility wasn't really a thought until we got done in the police department. It's kind of the same thought process, so, but certainly can be added if that's a request or you would like to see that.
I'm sure we won't forget about it, so.
No, the chief will not let you forget about that.
Councilor Lilly.
Thank you. Talking about the Public Works facility, talking about doing the 8-bay garage, is that going to be on the same site that the new facility will be at?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure that makes sense to spend that money if it's still going to be there.
Yes, yeah, and Matt can come up and talk to you more about that project, but we've engaged, done the RFP for the architects, and we feel confident that all of our needs can be accomplished on that existing site.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but last year we looked at a 5-year CIP program.
Yes.
Correct? So, I always like to ask, how does, going year to year, are there things that we identified for last year for FY 2027 that dropped off this list? Or are we pretty consistent with our forward-looking on all these projects, or are there some big moves anywhere?
Yeah, that's a great question. No, not a lot of big moves. There may have been some shifting of gears, like I think the Civic Center being one of them, we would have liked to have gotten more projects out, but pushed some off because of the cost of the switchgear design and the bleachers. So not really new projects, but pushing things out or making things more of a priority. 8-bay garage was one that was not on that priority list. We've had that inspected by our engineers, and that needs to be replaced sooner rather than later. So shifting, but not major changes.
Yeah, so that was a good example of what I was after. Other questions or comments from councilors? Councilor Sinkowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Did we put some funding into the FY26 CIP for Civic Center's electrical switchgear, or did that end up not getting in that CIP?
It didn't. It's first starts in this one.
Okay. And then I'm seeing them show up across many of our buildings. Are any of the other ones as concerning as that one?
Switchgear?
Yeah.
Bucher Center is the other one, but come on up, Matt. Phone a friend.
From a switchgear perspective, the Matt Nays, our Director of Development Services. From a switchgear perspective, really it's Bucher and the Civic Center from an aging perspective. Obviously, we've got the Public Works facility, but the Public Works facility is in process. And this building, at this point, the equipment in this building, particularly the switchgear, which hasn't been changed out since the building was constructed in 1988, is aging. I'm not concerned about that in the next 5 to 10 years, but it's not something that it's something that we can anticipate in the next 5 to 10 years to start thinking about this building. Beyond that, everything else is relatively newish.
That's good.
You can usually get about somewhere between 40 and 50 years is what you can anticipate out of switchgear. If you're gone longer than that, then as my prior facilities director used to say to me, it doesn't owe you anything.
Right. Right. And I appreciate us looking at the other ones ahead of time because I know we are all living on borrowed time with Civic Center's switchgear. So seeing those across these buildings is a good sign. What else was I going to ask about? Lithgow had something to do with a tripping hazard, a granite tripping hazard. That was this year's?
Right at the sidewalk, and I'm not sure how that was, what the plan was to deal with that, but right as you're walking into the entrance, and the way the sidewalk has lifted there, and I'm not sure what the plan was on it, though.
I don't know either. So we'll have to ask Dan what the plan is.
Yeah, I think it might have gotten into 26's CIP. I can't remember, but I'm noticing it's not on this list, so perhaps it's being dealt
Yeah.
with currently. Thank you.
So the front entrance repairs shows up as 2028. Is that the same thing? Is that the same project we're talking about? Yeah.
It would be, right?
I think
I've
it's
got a
that.
question. I've got a question for you.
Okay. Sitting.
Yeah, 130,000, I would think that's probably, the front entrance is probably the same project.
Yeah, it probably is. I would have to ask my facilities director, my apologies, but that makes sense that it would be out that
Right.
level.
Counselor Lynn?
So Matt, you know I'm a planner at heart, not like you, but, so the facility plan was something I was proud that we got done.
Yes.
I advocated for that for quite a while, but at some point, I don't know if it'd be appropriate for the CIP, but I would suggest probably setting aside some money to update that.
Yeah, I agree. At some point, yeah, I completely agree. That'll be something that we need to update on a fairly regular basis. It's been extraordinarily usul. So
Yeah,
your
I mean, the
advocacy-
minute the ink dried, those buildings
Yeah.
were aging, so.
Yeah, no, the advocacy for that, that was the thing that I really wanted to have before my prior facilities manager ended up leaving. That was the piece of knowledge that I was able to pull out of his head and everybody else's as well.
Yep, so great, just a thought.
Mhm.
Yep, thank you.
Others? So what else would you like to discuss tonight?
I don't have anything else to present, Your Honor. All we have left is the fire department and Ingrid's finance department on Thursday, and then we have the wrap-up on the following Monday, so.
On Tuesday.
Excuse me, following Tuesday, thank you. So, yeah, we've updated the reductions so far, and we'll have some updates for you by the end of this week, so you can go into the wrap-up fresh with what we've had, and we'll have, I'm sure, some suggestions from tonight, from Thursday, and what we've already had going. So, we'll be ready to hit the ground running next week.
Counselor Lynn?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I want to take a moment tonight, because we're going to be having our meeting before the council meeting next week, and I want to talk pretty serious about the impact of this budget. As an example, I was out front of my yard working, and over the 3 hours I was out there, 4 people stopped by, talked to me for close to an hour. And concerns about the reval. So I want to start with the reval. I want to use a very simple example of the impact of this reval, and then I want to give an extreme example of cuts and how, in my opinion, we're nibbling around the edges. We're going to have some tough decisions to make. So as an example of the reval, commercial property right now is assessed at 77% of market value. Residential is at 43%. I want to use a real simple example. So the goal of reval is to try to get both at 100%. Commercial value is going to increase about 30%. Residential values, you're looking at a 133% increase from 43 to 100. So if we assume that a home has a true market value of $100,000, right now it's at $43,000. So if you take that $43,000 with our mill rate, the taxes are $1,049. If you take the new value of $100,000 with a mill rate that's in the manager's budget at 17.29, that's $1,729. That's an increase of over 60% just from the reval with this budget. That is phenomenal. That's a huge part of this. If we were to take, and this is a drastic estimate that I put together, flat fund the school, no increase for the school, that's $3.7 million. Hiring freeze, around $800K. The cuts we've identified, $250K. No vehicle purchase, $750K. We're down to 8.8 before the reval. Before the reval. So this is what's been keeping me up at night, because we're going to have to make some really tough decisions here. If we don't, people are going to have to make even tougher decisions. And what I found interesting, and I thank the city manager, was the demographics in the front of this book. Over 3,000 people are over the age of 65. 42% of our city are single households. That's one income. So we're going to have to make tough, drastic cuts. And what I'm going to use the word maintenance budget, essential operations, and that's it. We've got to get through the reval. We've got to survive this year. And it was what is of concerning to me, because I'm a news junkie, almost 40 years in the military. We've got fuel prices that are going to probably not come down. And the prediction is they're not going to come down to the midterm elections. Now, that's a politician's view. Maine, that's the start of the heating season. So we have got some tough calls. And I was serious when I was talking about flat funding, looking at that, because that reval is huge. That's a big thing. So I'm just laying that out there. And I want to say, we've got intestinal fortitude and courage is going to have to be what we got to deal with here. We can't deal with thousands. We're talking millions of dollars that we're going to have to really tackle. I'm not going to support any budget like that because I don't think our residents can afford an increase this year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to react tonight? Councilor Sinkowitz?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate Councilor Lynn bringing that forward, and I echo his concern that we are in the midst of a very messy year, that the reval and the needs from the budget are making it very difficult to understand the needs of our city, the ways that our tax base can bear certain things versus the growth in the city. That is something that I usually track very closely, is the growth in valuation, to understand what municipal and school growth the tax base can bear. And this year, that's impossible. One of the things, and I meant to email this, but since there's a target of opportunity here, I would like to better understand the way that the loss of the homestead exemption has impacted our residents over the last couple of years and what getting that back could do. And I guess I shouldn't say loss, reduction of the homestead exemption, because in my understanding, we were down around 14,000 and that will go back to the 25,000. So if we're thinking about that, in terms of our mill rate now, that would be a pretty significant reduction in the property tax bill. But the thing I don't understand is what that looks like for the resident, given that our mill rate will also change. So what their end tax bill would look like separately. There's a lot of variables in there, and I don't know if it's possible to get any sort of estimate there. But that is one of the things that has been on my mind, weighing what individual property taxpayers have currently experienced is a rise in mill rate, but also a reduction in their homestead exemption for most of them, making it, the real cost is the real cost, but making it seem as if the city's taxes have gone up even more than they actually have. But it's partly because of that reduction in the reimbursement from the homestead exemption. So on the other side, understanding our mill rate will need to be whatever it is and the reval will be whatever it is. But if there will be, there will be a reduction in the property tax payment from the homestead exemption.
Yeah, the first 25,000 will be taken off, if you will, as opposed to 14, what it is now. The good part is our assessor will be here on Thursday as part of the finance. So she'll be able to answer these questions. Like one of the things I think I heard Councilor Lynn say, like 130% from 133. It's my understanding it'd be 60. It's at 43% to get it to 100. And that's what she and I have.
The increase from the example I used, if you do the increase from 43 to 100, the difference between those is 57,000.
Oh, you're talking
That's
dollars.
133% increase from 43.
Thank you. That makes sense.
43 to 57 is 133% increase.
Yep, okay.
Right?
Yeah, and she'll be here to answer.
That's Mrs. Tweedy, my sophomore year in high school.
Yes.
That made me show my work, so I always show my work.
That was Winslow math on my part, so it was even worse, so I appreciate that. So, thank you.
Counselor Judkins?
First, in regards to homestead exemption, it's $14,000 now. It used to be $25,000. It's $11,000. So you get 11 off. That times our predicted mill rate. So that's going to trim every single tax payment by $170. Not a lot of money. $170, considering what we're talking about, almost a 6% increase. So it's nice to think about that, but it's not going to be significant. And I believe the target isn't 100% valuation. The target is between 90 and 95%.
Correct.
That's about where it's going to land.
But you can still capture the full
Yeah.
exemption.
Yeah, but it's still, as we make the tough decisions, and I echo Councilor Lind, this is going to be a year of some real change. And I'm not going to begin to get into exactly what we got to do, but I don't see us accomplishing this in one wrap-up session. Number one, it's going to be a lot of hard conversation. But as we lower that mill rate is also going to come down, which is going to be that's more important than anything. So that 17 to me is, even at this point, seems too high for what it should be. But I'm thinking that we've got to try to land that mill rate somewhere between 12 to 13 for it to be survivable for the people in Augusta. So.
Yeah, so you mentioned not knowing whether we would be able to do it all in one wrap-up. We've got a little bit of flexibility built into our schedule going forward. Of course, we've got this wrap-up schedule for the 21st and a public hearing at same night which would be an informational meeting night, but we're going to schedule a special business meeting for purposes of having the public hearing. Still another week before the first reading of the resolve. We have an open Tuesday. That's a possibility. So we've got a little bit flexibility. We don't have to feel obliged to make a final decision on the 21st. So.
Yep. Because the decisions we're going to be making this year will be affecting people's lives significantly. If we talk about flat funding the school, that's going to mean layoffs. And I don't see how we get out of this without layoffs on our side either. Pure and simple.
Councilor Gary Allen?
Counselor Lind, I was just wondering if you could repeat the couple of things that you said as part of your option. So flat fund the school. There was a
Oh, that
couple
was
of-
just an example.
Just examples, okay.
No, I was just using drastic examples, Courtney. I'm not wedded. School, yeah, like I said the other night, the numbers are the numbers. I mean, 20% increase last year. If you remember, we used $2 million to lower the tax rate. I've already had 2 constituents email me, and they're calling it a bailout. I've had 3 pretty direct emails to me concerned about all of it. But, I just, 20% last year with a promise that they would change things. To come back with 9 now, you're talking a 29% increase in 2 years. I'm having a tough time with that. I really am. And, I don't know where they stand. I've heard there's a reluctance to move a little bit. So I'm a little disappointed in that. Make no mistake, increases on households and families is going to affect everybody, to include kids. I mean, all you got to do is look at the food bank numbers, look at the kid packs, the kids that are hurting, the families that are hurting. Drive by the food bank on a Thursday, look at the cars down Mount Vernon Avenue. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. And where I'm at is essential services, public safety, a maintenance budget.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else tonight? Okay. Any questions that you want the city manager to pursue that we haven't already raised for him tonight? Councilor Morse Polly?
I just have a few requests. I'd like to see the fee schedule for Bicentennial Park, just the number of season passes versus the number of individuals and the number of visitors per day. Just kind of understand that a little bit more, whether that has the capacity to maximize in any way.
That was a question you asked Rich? Was that the same thing, or?
No, it's more, I don't think they have those actual numbers right here. Like, what is the number of the season passes that we had last year versus the individuals that came and visited last year? I know they said it's 100 people per day. I'm assuming that that's a lot of season passes because the income of 5,000 at 100 per day as an individual, you'd make that in 2 weeks. I'd like to really kind of hone in on that. Old Fort Western talked about the 501c3 and the income that comes in from visitors goes to pay the cost of the interpreters. I'd like to see what the revenue is from visitors versus the cost of interpreters.
You can look that up on their 990. I just did.
Okay.
Yeah, they've got an IRS tax return. It's 24. The IRS is behind posting 25, but you could look at least at 24's tax return.
Just to see if the revenues, I want to know if the revenues are covering the interpreters or whether there's extra revenue there. I'd also like to know what are the busiest times versus the non-busy times at Lithgow Library, where they're open that many hours? What is the high volume rate of individuals coming through the door? One of the things that was mentioned is Lithgow Library had the custodial staff that's not captured in their budget. I think that it's really important for us to understand what is the cost of a certain cost center. And so if custodians are in a different cost center, it makes it really hard to understand the actual expenditures for that. So I don't know if that's a possibility to move those over so that we can see what that actual cost is at Lithgow.
We can look at it.
Okay. And then last, I know I'm thinking of the enterprise funds and how at the Civic Center, we put the entire cost of the facility into that budget. And so I'm looking at thinking of the childcare and then the actual cost of the building not being in their budget and whether or not we can percentage out how much of the cost of that building should be in their budget.
Maintenance of the building, because they rent it. They rent that, or they don't rent it, but they occupy that space. So you're saying,
What percentage of the occupancy space would account for the expenditure of that heat, lights,
Water, sewer,
exactly.
insurance.
Yeah, it's an enterprise fund, which means the expenditures from it need to come out so that we can really get an idea of what is the revenue versus the expenditures. Do we need to maximize enough to cover those?
If it was a commercial, you should always look at wear and tear.
yeah, no, we can try to figure that out. I can tell you historically, that is one of those good services we provide, so they've been given that leeway to keep them afloat, but we can figure that out. We can switch kind of philosophies on that.
I'm just trying to run it in line with the way we do the Civic Center. Like, we ask a lot of questions of the Civic Center and their facility maintenance, and so if it's an enterprise fund, I feel like we should be running them all in the same way, so we really have a good picture of that.
But remember that we rent other parts of that building out to other entities, not just, so it's not the Civic Center is one building. So to your point, we can try to look at percentages of that, yes.
Yep.
Yeah, because then we would probably, because the rental fees to the other ones pay for what Councilor Morris Polly's talking about, so, yep.
Okay,
Can look
that's
at
it. Thank you.
Councillor Lind?
I must have missed it, but I don't recall the Downtown Alliance, the $25,000 being discussed.
Yep.
I'd like to know about a memorandum of understanding or anything before we vote on that, what management controls are going to put on that money. And then a big task, the TIF funds. I'd like to see where the TIF funds are being used now throughout the city as far as positions that are being used, funded by TIF funds, where else TIF funds are used that may be able to be shifted around to help our budget.
Can I back up to the memorandum of understanding
Sure,
with
with
the
the
Downtown
Downtown
Alliance?
Alliance, yeah.
So what, you would like, we don't have a memorandum of understanding.
We
So you-
provide $25,000 to the Downtown Alliance.
Yep.
Without any memorandum of understanding or any management. I'd like to, before we fund that, I'd like to review some type of an agreement between us and them. Things like being notified when someone is laid off or whatever it is. I'd just like to know if we're going to have $25,000 going to an organization, what it's going to be used for, that type of.
It's 40,000.
It's 40.
Yeah.
I thought it was 25. Yeah, 40. Wow.
And yes, so that would be something we would have to draft.
Yep.
If that's the direction
I
of the
thought there was
council.
one there. I recall
No,
years ago.
somebody asked that.
I did.
Yeah, and we couldn't find, there's never been one.
All right.
So, That would be something we'd have to draft, and I don't think
I
I
can't
could.
imagine Main Street doesn't have a boilerplate or someone has something,
We
but
can look,
yeah.
yeah.
Just want to make sure we have input of what that money is used for and how it's used and accounted for.
Mhm.
Council Gary, you all set?
Yeah.
Council Gary Allen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm also wondering, do we have a contract with KV Cap that we can review?
Yes, we're in contract with them.
Could I have a copy of that, please?
I got it.
Got quite a list
I
going.
got it. Did you see how?
Banging away at the
I'm a
keyboard.
fast typer. I took typing in high school, just anybody is wondering.
Yeah, I have typewriters
skill
when
to
I was
have.
in high school.
If there's nothing else, it's 9:01. We'll release you for the evening, and we'll see you 5:30 on Thursday. And then we'll have our regular meeting after that. Thanks very much, everyone.